Hello, it's Eleanor Beaton, and welcome to this behind the scenes video edition of the Power Presence Position podcast. This is episode 469, behind the scenes of my email strategy. So you are watching the video edition of the podcast, and this edition, unlike our finely honed and polished audio edition, the video edition is rough and uncut. So you're going to hear my mess ups. You'll hear the ums and ahs. You'll hear my little audio instructions and notes and observations to our technical production team, all of it. But it's just easiest for us to leave this in here for you. And for those of you who may be content geeks, it'll give you a little bit of a behind the scenes sense of how we actually do the recording part of the podcast. Okay. So here in a second, I'll be diving into the audio recording and video. Of course, you're here for it all, but just wanted to give you a heads up. One of the most lucrative assets that you can build is your email list. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what you sell, the fortune is in the email list, in the database. Data is a powerful currency in today's business climate. And for many entrepreneurs, your email list, your database is the source of most of your customer data. But it's one thing to build a list, and most people are obsessed with how you build a list. They want to get more and more and more names onto their email list. That's cool, but it's an entire thing altogether, entirely different thing to build a relationship with the list that you have. So me and my colleagues together have built an incredibly lucrative email list. And in this episode, I'm going to share some of my relationship building via email strategy secrets with you. Let's dive in. Okay, so Angela and Pavel will move right into our intro, and then we'll come back. In late 2013, I wrote my first blog post. And this was really sort of a very personal post that I wrote in the aftermath of my father's death. He died a couple of years before, and I was really writing a blog post, a personal blog post about the impact that his passing had on me, my ambition, my direction, my goals, my business. It was very much a personal outpouring. Well-structured, of course, as a former journalist, but it was very much a sort of personal, very vulnerable share about what was going on in my life, this major event, and how it was impacting me as an entrepreneur. And so I published it as a blog on my website. And underneath that blog, I had a little bar where people could enter their information to sign up for my email list. And I sort of shared that on social media. I shared it on Twitter. I shared it on Facebook, and I had a link back to my blog, to my website, where they could go and read it. And people did read it. And I kept writing week after week. I continued to blog. And then I would take that blog. At the bottom of the blog would be a little bar where they could sign up. People could sign up if they wanted to receive my blogs every single week. That's how I started the formation of my email list. And within a couple months, I had a few hundred subscribers, and it just grew from there. But that email list, that sort of regular blogging, very personalized, heartfelt connection, like that desire to share something important or meaningful and to put it out into the world in the hopes that others could relate to it, to benefit, in the hopes that I could help people, in the hopes that I could feel less alone in my path as an entrepreneur. That was the very beginning of what would ultimately become a really powerful, meaningful strategy. You can even call it strategy around email, quote unquote, marketing for us. Now, since then, flash forward, I've built a 7-figure business. I have a completely different life, but my obsession with the written word and my obsession with email in particular continues. And I have built a really great email list. It's not as massive as other people's lists. It's a lot bigger than other people's lists. But the thing about my list and our list is the value. And when I think about the value of our email list, what I'm talking about is the fact that a single subscriber on my email list is quote unquote worth hundreds of dollars per year to the business. Think about that. A single name on my email list translates to hundreds of dollars worth, of contribution to our overall business revenues year after year. So if you're just starting out, you have 25 people on your email list, you may have those same kinds of numbers. But if you've been growing, it's very rare for seven-figure earners to have that kind of sort of relationship with their list. So it made me think, that it was time to do an episode to share a little bit about my email strategy. Now, if you are not on my email list, I strongly encourage you to be there. So I publish 3 emails each and every week, week after week on an ongoing basis. We have very high open rates because I put a lot into those emails, and I'll tell you why. But you can get on my email list at eleanorbeaton.com/join. So here's the thing, about the email list. We have, and I would say, like a weird counterintuitive email strategy. And to be transparent, I share this a lot more fully in the paid programs that I run, but it is different. And I really wanted to share it because I think it's so powerful. So I definitely wanted to give you guys some tips and secrets here to help you cultivate a more powerful and lucrative relationship with your email subscribers so that you can ultimately create a much more lucrative business. Okay, so let's dive into some of the secrets. Okay, so Angela and Pavel, can we do a musical transition here, and we'll use the song Funk You. All right, so my first tip is to set a really clear intention about what you want what a good email list looks like to you. Now, when I talk about setting a clear intention, if you haven't had a chance to listen to episode 468, where I really walk through a 4-part strategy for taking action on things, I strongly encourage you to go back and listen to that episode, because I can't emphasize enough how important it is to take the time to set really, really clear intentions about things. So, and the core intention that I want you to think about is, what does it mean to you to have a quote unquote good email list? What does it mean to you? So there's this outdated model of business success, which says that more is better. And I would argue that that's not always true. And I would argue that that's a very sort of blunt, somewhat ineffective definition of success. So I think it's really critical to think through, what does a good email list look like to you? So when I was first getting started as an entrepreneur, building up my database and email list, I didn't really think about it. I just thought that the more people got on that email list, the better. And on the one hand, that is absolutely true, right? The more people who know about you and your work, the better. Numbers do matter, like they really do. The more people who know about you, the bigger the audience, or the bigger the pool of people who can potentially become customers, the more money you're going to make. So that's a completely legitimate target to actually grow the overall number of people on your email list. But one of the things that I have personally discovered over time is that obsession with continuing to grow the email list without actually being really clear on what a good email list look like is not that helpful. So let me give you an example. In today's world, because of email deliverability, like email deliverability is a huge issue for anybody who has an email list. What do I mean by email deliverability? What I'm actually talking about here is, are your emails getting through to the people to whom they're intended? So how often are your emails landing in the Gmail promotions folder? How often are they landing in spam? This is a really important metric. And if you don't have people who are interested in what you have to say, so if you are sending your emails to people who are not opening them, to people who are, lots of people who are not interested in what you have, so there's lots of unsubscribes, any of that kind of stuff, that can set off the AI robots that are working for the Gmails, that are working for the Microsoft Outlook, that are working for the Verizon mail tools, right? And that can start directing your email to spam. So for me, it's really important that on my email list, I have people who genuinely want to hear from me. I don't care if they don't want to hear from me. I want them off my list 100%. And I will consistently do things in my emails to get people off my list. Like I will taunt them and encourage them to unsubscribe, because I don't want them. The last thing you want is indifference, because that impacts your ability to get into the inboxes and reach the people who actually do want to hear from you. So that's my first thing, getting really, really clear. So for me, a good email list to me is something that is growing week after week with people who will ultimately become buyers. Right? I know that not everybody on my email list is going to become a buyer, but that's who I'm most interested in, quite frankly, because those are the people, obviously with whom I'm getting into a relationship. Email gives them a chance to get to know who I am. And if there's going to be some people who will never, ever buy, but a lot of times they'll refer. So I'm really looking for people who are genuinely interested in what I have to say. And I would take one of those people over 50 people who are just going to kind of be on my list to get the free thing and then never open another email, because those people will do more harm than good. Okay. So step number one is to set a clear intention and get very clear for yourself what it means for you to have a good email list. And honestly, like, my philosophy on this is very different from other people in my industry who are really focused. They see that success is much more of a numbers game. And so that's their philosophical standpoint much more than it is mine. My standpoint is success is a quality and caliber game, right? So you just sort of being very transparent here, you've got to decide what works for you. And that's the point of this tip. It is about being really clear about what a good email list looks like to you. Now, here's the thing. Here's a little pro tip. I told you earlier that I do things to get people to unsubscribe. And honestly, that is a pro tip. So I'm not being rude or disrespectful or anything like that. But again, what I don't want on the email list is indifference, because indifference is dangerous. Indifference means that people are not opening your emails. And the more they don't open the emails, the more the AI bots or whatever the hell they are saying, hey, this isn't interesting. Let's put this into spam. Right? So that's what we don't want. If you're going to be speaking and doing all these things to build your list, you want to make sure that the people you get onto your list actually want to be there. So I spend time thinking about how I can respectfully repel people off my email list. Now, bonus tip, when you do this, it means that by the time they do become clients, they understand how you operate and therefore are easier to work with, because you're using your emails to really inculcate people into your culture. Okay. So it's like they understand the land they're visiting. So that's step one, set a clear intention. Be very clear about what it means to you and to your business to have a good email list. Okay, Angela and Pavel, let's do a musical transition. We're going to use the song Funk You. Okay, so the second secret, this is huge and it sounds so Pollyanna and obvious, but it's something that I see people forgetting all the time. It shocks me the degree to which people are really transactional when it comes to their email list. Like, I can tell when they're telling me it's a newsletter. I'm like, oh, we're in trouble now. And what do I mean by that? I mean, who in their right mind gets up in the morning and it's like, I think I want to read a newsletter today, right? Nobody says that. What do people want? Like, why do you read things? So let me give you an example. One of the things that I read almost every day is LaineyGossip.com. LaineyGossip.com. Lainey Gossip is totally funny and entertaining. She's a celebrity blogger. She sort of dissects celebrity culture. She shows up consistently every day. She hires and brings into her blog amazing writers to entertain us. And basically, she shares her evolution as a person. She takes you behind the scenes of what's going on in her life. She laughs and she's self-deprecating. She'll talk about how she can be vain or petty or those kinds of things. And you really feel like you have a relationship with her. And meanwhile, I know, like, I'm super clear that by me going back every day, look, I'm telling you, like, anybody who knows me, if you have been in my orbit for like a few weeks, Lainey Gossip is probably going to come up because I love to read and I read her every single day. I brought her to be a keynote speaker at an event that I had. She's been on the podcast. Like, I love this woman. Okay. Because I feel like I have a relationship with her. And I kind of do because she's been on my podcast. She's been a speaker at one of my events. But honestly, the majority of my relationship with Lainey Gossip comes from the fact that she consistently shows up and creates fantastic material for me to consume every day. And so that creates this sense of gratitude. It creates this sense of connection. And that connection is very lucrative, both in terms of me talking about her to help her build her readership and audience, but obviously the value of that readership and audience to advertisers and that kind of thing is huge. This is the piece that people forget about. First, they're obsessed with building a big email list, and that's the only metric that matters. And then they only see the email list as like a cash machine. It's like an ATM machine that they can email about your next product launch or about the release of your fall catalog or whatever the fuck. And I'm swearing, excuse me, but I have to do it. And here's why. That's not a relationship. That's a transaction. These are your customers and potential customers and clients that we're talking about. They are welcoming you into the most sacred thing that they have, which is their attention. And you're going to treat it like it's a transaction and then wonder why your quote unquote big list isn't producing for you. Oh my gosh, are you serious? Put two and two together, folks. So that's a little bit of scorn. You're definitely hearing a little bit of scorn on that one, but it's not delivered with judgment. I'm sort of using it for dramatic effect. But the idea here is that, listen, you are building a relationship with your list and community. So stop trying to market to them. Stop trying to sell to them. Think about building a relationship. And that doesn't mean that you can't, quote unquote, sell to them. So this is the thing, if I think about, like, say, if you're listening and you are a subscriber on my email list. So I get up on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays because I usually write them pretty fresh because that's where the energy is. I want to show up with energy and what's current. I don't want you to have this canned version of me from 2 months ago. I want it to be fresh and current, right? And relevant. So I get up on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and I apply base on pens to seat of chair. And I literally think about something that's important to me or that I want to say or that I want to share with you. And then I write it, and I write it in the most entertaining, irreverent, funny way. I know that for me to take 10 minutes of your time to read something, you're not going to read it if you're not consistently getting value, if it doesn't bring a smile to your face, if it doesn't make you think differently. So I'm going to show up and deliver because I care about you. And we're both grown-ass women. So you are clear that I am an entrepreneur, that I'm not running ads, that I'm going to totally make you offers to come to join a webinar or to come to take part in one of my programs or to come to one of my events or to, leave a review on iTunes or whatever. I just think this idea of being really open and transparent, like that's the core of building a relationship. And this is the part that's lost. It's the part that so many people forget about. And they're so obsessed with like marketing to their list. They're so obsessed with their quote unquote split testing and how did the launch perform. And I'm like, that's it. There's a human on the end of every single one of those emails that goes out. And do you actually prioritize your relationship with that human over everything else? And I think you can tell when someone does and doesn't do that. And that's the smart money, by the way. That's the smart money. So, if you're on my list, of course, I'm going to make you offers. I will never try to sell something to you. I'm going to make offers and then you'll decide if you want to buy, right? That's literally how I think about it. But I also never blink or think twice about making offers, because it's a very sort of open, transparent part of the email relationship. So what does this mean to you? Would you spend time reading your own damn emails? Like, would you put time into them? And if not, there's your sign. Find a way to make it good enough that you'd read it, right? Find a way to make how your emails or whatever it is that you're sending out to your email list regularly, find a way to make it so good that you would 100% consume it. Because if it's not, that's okay. Find a way to make it better. You might not be a writer. You might be more of a video person. You might be more of a visual person. I don't know. Like, this is where you got to get creative, right? But you build a relationship when you are really showing up consistently and you're doing your best to really bring something powerful to that relationship. Okay. And so what I have found is that by focusing on the relationship first, and remembering, of course, that doesn't mean that I don't make offers. I make tons of offers in my emails consistently, religiously. But by focusing on the relationship first, it creates, this sort of bond that helps me better understand what's going on with my readers, what's important to them, what they might find valuable. And it creates this trust that allows me to be more and more of myself, in my writing. So it's definitely a mutual win-win. So that's my tip number 2. Really think about, are you actually building a relationship? Okay. All right, Pavel and Angela, we're going to do a little break here in the podcast. We're going to use the song Flying Flowers as a before and after. And this is a little break in the podcast. Hey, so if you were enjoying this episode about really how to leverage the power of your email list and how to deepen your relationship with your email list in order to create a much more lucrative business, then I strongly encourage you to listen to Power Presence Position episode number 451. The title of that episode is The List Building Power of an Anchor Platform. And in that podcast, I go into more details on how to actually build your email list. So this podcast is all about deepening your relationship with your email list by revealing some tips from my personal email strategy. But that podcast, number 451, is all about the list building power of an anchor platform. And it really gives you some good, solid steps on how to actually build that email list in the first place. So you'll want to go and check that out. Okay, so step 3 for my email strategy that I wanted to reveal to you. This one is huge. Everybody loves to consume this and partake in this, but very few people think about actually delivering it themselves. It's this concept of edutainment. So really understanding the business that you're in, you're here to edutain. You've probably heard that Scarlett Johansson, the actress who plays Black Widow in the Marvel movies, is in the midst of a lawsuit with Disney. And at issue is the fact that some of her compensation was tied to Disney doing a launch of Black Widow in theaters, but they didn't really do that. They mostly had it, maybe exclusively, but certainly mostly had the launch on Disney Plus, the streaming service. And I was so intrigued. So of course I want Scarlett Johansson to get her share, but here's the thing that really intrigued me about it. Why would Disney, they have so much money that they can make from a theatrical release. Why would they want everybody to stream it? And of course, the reason is that they want that information, the data. When you go into a movie theater, they can't track you. But if you are watching the movie and engaged in that way, they can definitely track you. So what does that mean? Why am I talking about it here? What is so valuable about having an email list is that continuity. You get so much data from your email list. And I a lot of like annoying metrics that people monitor. I don't monitor. To me, I'm like, are we selling? Like, are people buying our stuff? That tells me if my email is working or not, right? And of course, we're more sophisticated than that, but sometimes I think people get too smart by half with metrics. They're like split testing stuff on an audience of like 100 people. It's just, anyway, I could go on and on, but a lot of split testing is way too fancy by half and a big exercise in overcomplication. But what I will say is that when I say that you get a lot of data from your email list, here's what I mean. When you show up consistently, like I do, and write from the heart and create value, but also edutain, people are going to read what you have to say consistently. And when they read what you have to say consistently, they're going to start doing certain things. They're going to start responding. They are going to start showing up in other social platforms and you'll recognize them. They will start referring you to other people. They will start taking action that tells you about who they are and the things that are important to them, but also the things that they value in you. And I have found that to be such a powerful relationship, such that I don't do many surveys. What I do is try to build a relationship with my email audience. And from that gives me a sense of the topics and the kinds of things and the energy that I'm communicating with that resonates. It shows me where is the connection. So it doesn't mean that I just go and start exploiting that and just only doing, talking about those topics. That's called followership. Followership can be valuable, but not always. It's more that I understand. Now I have a stronger understanding of the things that are more interesting to me and the strong connection points to them. So edutainment allows that, because edutainment is the thing that sustains attention. Edutainment sustains attention. Why in the F do you think Instagram is asking you or is promoting and giving much more attention, and the algorithm prefers it when you dance? Why would Instagram want women to twerk on the platform? Because it's entertaining. And when you entertain people, you sustain their attention. And the sustaining of attention is really powerful. It means they can show you more ads. So let's talk about how this relates to you and me. When you're able to edutain through your email content, you are able to sustain attention and develop more powerful relationship. And that's it. Of course, you're going to sell an offer and all of that kind of thing, but you have to actually have someone's attention in order to do that. And edutainment is the pathway. It's what so many people forget about. Now, I will be teaching on edutainment and how to do it effectively this fall. So just pay attention to my emails. I'll be telling you about it there. Go to eleanorbeaton.com/join, get on my email list, or just go to eleanorbeaton.com. You'll be able to see tons of places there to sign up, but do it. I strongly encourage you to do it, because this is something that I see so many people missing. They don't know how to edutain. So they're either, twerking for no reason, like twerking and pointing for no reason on Instagram, or all they're doing is giving these tips and but they're not actually building the relationship, right? So we've all had those people who give us lots of free advice, but they don't really leave much of an imprint. And the imprint is what's required in order to enter into like a lucrative buying relationship with your audience. So there you go. That's tip 3. Learn how to edutain. You're going to have to figure this one out on your own until I have my webinar. That's going to be coming up next month. So you can just get on my email list and I'll tell you about it then. Okay. All right. Pavel and Angela, we're going to move into musical transition and we're going to use the song Funk You again. All right. So there's so much more to say on email strategy, but I didn't want to overwhelm you. So let's just kind of recap the 3 tips. The first is really set a clear intention. And what does it mean to you? Like, what does a good email list mean to you? For many of you, your thinking and definition of what a good email list is just double what you have now. And I'm going to challenge you to go a little deeper than that and really understand what a good quality database means to you. Listen, this is huge. I was talking with my coach about this, and she was asking me, like, she was going to offer me this thing that she'd created. And she's like, but are you going to use it? And I was like, oh, sure. And she's like, but are you actually going to use it? And I was like, and what we were talking about is this idea of undigested stuff. And when you have things hanging around that serve no purpose, they can become toxic. And legit, people hanging around on your email list who are not opening your emails may be lovely as people and humans, but they are toxic to the health of your overall email list. So for you just to say that your definition of a good email list is simply bigger than what you have today, and admit it, for many of you, this is your strategy, you need to go a little deeper and get really, really clear. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing, so for me, right, and just drive it home because I can't let it go there. For me, it really is like, I don't know how long I'm going to be on this earth. And while I'm on this earth doing this work, I am focused. I am here to double the number of women entrepreneurs who scale past $1 million in annual revenue by 2030. That's it. Like, that's what I'm here to do. Why? Because I really believe in the power of women entrepreneurs to advance gender equity. So for me, I don't want people who are not interested in that mission, who are out there to get the free thing. Like, this is a very specific type of woman entrepreneur that I am looking for. And the reason is because I'm sensitive and super committed. Like, I'm one of those people, I just take a lot of responsibility. And yes, I could coach myself out of it, but why would I? Our team are the same way. Like, we are all in and super committed. And so for us, our email list is our first line, right? And that's not where I'm getting people to try to sell to them. That's where I'm recruiting. That's where you get to know us. And so you get to decide, hey, am I down for this? And honestly, there's a ton of great resources that people will have. Like, most of the people on my email list will never buy from me. But from my perspective, what makes a quality email list is that we have committed all in. We are attracting committed all in buyers, referrers, women who share that mission. Just super clear about it, right? And I'm saying this knowing that that may scare some of you guys. You might be like, well, I don't want to be on our list. And I'm like, that's fine. Do us both a favor. Be a podcast listener, but don't screw up my email open rates by getting on my list and not doing anything, right? So just really, really clear. I feel like the less we sugarcoat, the more effective it's going to be for everybody. So set a clear intention rather. Number 2, can we please just build an actual relationship? And when you're super upfront, like I just was, when you're upfront and you're also upfront, look, I'm going to provide the freaking best emails you ever saw in your life. And I'm 100% going to ask you to be my customer. I'm 100% going to make you offers. They're going to be juicy and irresistible. You're going to be thinking about them. That's like, fair game. When you are open and honest and transparent, and it's really clear between both parties, that's where, that's how you build a great relationship. And I feel like I have a great relationship with my email audience. When I write something that they don't like, they'll tell me. When I write something that is meaningful to them, they'll tell me. That's it. And I know you all are really smart and busy, and you don't have a lot of time to waste. And so I'm going to show up and make it worth the 5 minutes it took you to read the thing that I wrote, right? I'm going to improve your day. So that's the second thing, build a relationship. And then the third part is edutain. Understand the business that you're actually in. You're not a university prof in this component. You are an edutainer. Do you even know what that means? Are you even being edutaining? And I will tell you, when I think about most of the emails I read, no. So if you want to learn how to edutain more, get on my list because I'll be doing a training about it in November. But we're not ready to kind of give the deets just yet. So just keep your eye out. All right. So that's it. That's all I got for you. And I guess I'll say, like, if you know of somebody who could benefit from this, tell her about this podcast episode. Tell her about this podcast episode. To me, the more clear, intentional business owners we have out there who really are understanding the power of their email lists, that to me is just so incredibly valuable. I see so many women entrepreneurs who, if you just had a stronger email strategy, if you just elevated your email game, there's so much money tied up in your email list. And honestly, if what I've said in this podcast episode, if you are picking up what I'm putting down, if you have a list and it's not producing a great living for you, you need to apply to work with us, because it's one of the things that we do best. It's major low-hanging fruit for most people, but a lot of people aren't thinking about it because, quite frankly, most people don't do email marketing well. I will be quite honest with you. So to do that, just go to coachwitheleanor.com. All right. Thank you so much for being here. And I guess the thing is, some of you guys are going onto iTunes and the different podcast players and leaving us reviews. And I just want to take a moment to say how much I appreciate that. My colleagues and I are so happy to be able to provide this podcast to you free of charge. I have so many clients who come and work with us and say that in the beginning, when they first started their business or at a different stage in their business, they just didn't have the money to invest to hire us. And so they grew their business first and foremost using the podcast. So that just fills me with joy, to be quite honest. I'm so happy to be able to make a difference like that. And that is the work of myself and my team, the colleagues. This show is a team effort, even though you just hear my voice, but it's definitely a team effort. So how can you pay it forward? Well, honestly, the most powerful way you could pay it forward is to share the show on social media and leave us a review. Those two things, that really helps us to be exposed to people who haven't heard us before. I don't know about you, but there's not a ton of podcasts that I listen to. I used to be a big consumer, and now I'm a little bit more discerning. So if we have made your discernment list, please pay it forward. And I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Tanya T, who left us a 5-star review on iTunes. She says, powerful. I heard Eleanor in another podcast and loved what she had to say. So I was excited to know that she had a podcast as well. I listened to all of the episodes. This podcast is something that I look forward to each week. It's full of knowledge that fuels me on my entrepreneurial journey. Thank you, Tanya T. I honor you, Queen, and so appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to leave us that review. All right, my friends, thanks so much for being here. So listen, get yourselves back next week, because this fall, so I'm recording this in the beginning of the fall, this fall, we're going to be highlighting a series of conversations. It's a mini series that I'm calling the Feminist Business Credo. In true feminine style, it's a co-creation between me and some incredible guests. And it's really all about some incredibly fierce women who have built very successful businesses and audiences using very distinctly feminine principles of growth and feminist principles of growth. So definitely get back here next week. We'll have the first conversation in that series. Okay, have a beautiful rest of the day. Thanks so much for being here. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.